Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavlich, and the star of the show, all the way from the Grove, the big sexy, the one and only Jesse Martineau.
Thank you very much, Mark. Well, you know what? Football's what's up. And, I got one wrong. But I was, I was right on the rest. And I called some big blowouts.
But you do have a gift in this, okay? Let's admit everything that you said. I bow down to you in all levels when it comes to picking football, except for my Raiders this year, which I am very happy how they finished.
Yeah.
When they were going down the field on the 20-yard line, ready to score to tie the game, was I optimistic? No, I was biting all my fingernails off, as you can see, because I still say to this day, I love my Raiders, but Derek Carr's not enough. He's just not enough to bring them across.
And I think that was proven.
But more importantly, that's finished now. How about those Cowboys?
Well, it was the one game I got wrong because
Yeah, that's a tough one. Though.
I mean, I thought it was a little tough. I thought it was a little more clear cut, but I mean, the Cowboys, they blew it.
Well, let's say, you know what else too? I can honestly say this in real life. And I'm not, and I hate the Cowboys more than any human being on the planet. They got robbed a little bit, right? But you know what? Nobody cares.
Yeah. No. the three worst fan bases all got beat this week.
Yeah.
The Eagles, the Steelers, and the Cowboys.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
No, they're the worst. They're the worst.
They deserve it.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Ben go. Your time was up 5 years ago.
I agree.
And so bye, Ben. The Eagles didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs, and as I said, that was going to be an atrocious beatdown, and it was.
And it was.
And the Bills showed up. Like the Bills that was the one I was wondering. I'm like, okay, either it's Bills dominate team or the Bills, we're mediocre again team.
But can we now say this out loud, Jesse? They got some serious potential to go. Yeah, they're scary.
That's what I mean. Like if they hit, if they're on, they absolutely
they're trouble.
Oh my gosh, they're big trouble. They're big trouble. Like they actually could do some damage in this thing.
Yeah.
And so now they play the Chiefs, which I mean that's a slobber knocker. Like
they look good though.
Really,
Chiefs,
whoever wins that game.
Yep. I agree with you. Chiefs look great too, but Bucks look good too.
Bucks look awesome as well.
But like you said, against an inferior team, right? So we'll see now. This is where all the big boys.
Tomorrow's a huge game again. Like tomorrow's a big one. Like I mean, really, the Rams and Cardinals. Like I mean,
tonight.
Sorry, tonight. Yeah,
tonight. Because you're all messed up.
I'm
because
all messed up because Monday night.
First time ever Monday night wild card game. Incredible.
And so right now we know. The next round, Bengals will play the Titans.
Mm-hmm. Good game.
Yeah, I think, man, that's tough. Titans have surprised everybody this year. When they beat the Seahawks in week 4 or whatever that was,
that's right.
Like, are they for real? And they showed that they were. The Niners and the Packers, Niners have zero chance in that game.
I agree.
Absolutely none.
In Lambeau, right?
Yeah.
So not going to happen.
Doesn't happen there.
Yeah.
And the Bucks, they're going to play. We don't know yet.
That really shows you how the Cowboys weren't as good as everybody thought they were, because when they lost to, like, really, I really think that Garoppolo is Derek Carr 2.0.
Well, they got the best draw. They really did.
Yeah.
They could have beat the Niners. Well, the Eagles would have been maybe worse, but they should have beat the Niners. They should have.
Yeah.
And they absolutely crapped the bed.
Easily should have beat them.
I mean, it was a really funny. There's a live watch. These three guys watch the games and live comment on them. And they're like, last play of the game, Dak runs for 14 yards with no timeouts left. And sure enough, Dak ran up the middle for 14 yards and got tackled.
Oh, he called it. He called it first.
He called it.
Oh, wow.
It was really funny. And so anyway, like, I just don't get some of the play call. This is the NFL. What's happening.
Can I say this on the show today? Jerry Jones is the biggest idiot in NFL football history. When a guy makes a scoreboard so big, he wants to always flex and show how big everything is in Texas.
Well,
and their own punter kicks it and hits the scoreboard, and the ball bounces back to him. And you know what? It's funny. They should get a penalty for that, in my opinion.
When we come back, we'll be joined by none other than Laval St Germain. We'll be right back on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavlich and Jesse Martineau.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavlich. Across the way in the Grove, the big sexy Jesse Martineau. And, of course, our special guest today, one of my favorite. I got to pick first for return guests, and I picked him, Sir Laval St Germain.
Sir. Hey, guys, I can't, honestly, honored to be back. Like, it's totally flattering when you guys reached out and said you wanted me as a, what do we call it, a re-guest?
Yeah, the first one.
Because last year we didn't repeat one guest. Most podcasts repeat guests 3-4 times in a year. We do not, and we made that as a vow to ourselves that we will not do that. But then when we were sitting down, like having our meeting and saying, okay, who are you going to pick for 12 guests to come back? 12
Wow.
out of all of them, and I got first pick, so I picked you, right? So, and
I've never seen Mark more excited for a guest than for you.
Listen,
That's
I've been surrounded by famous people my whole entire life, but I can't relate to them. I can't, like, my father was in the NHL, my uncle was in the NHL, and they introduced me to all these famous people. I can't relate to none of them. Laval, me and you connect.
There you go. Just a regular guy.
I get your madness, though. I get your madness.
Okay, guys, how many podcasts have you done? How many episodes now? What's going on?
This last year, I think we're in the 48. We did 48 last year.
This year.
Just last year. But we've been doing it 4 years before that. So I think when we stopped counting, we were at almost episode 200.
Yeah.
And so we're probably pushing 250 almost.
Yeah.
Taking over the world.
Well, we're trying.
You know what I think?
Really, we didn't start counting it till last year, really. Because last year is when we found our kind of niche. Because, we'd done this for a while, but we had different focus. And then when we decided to actually, it's weird because COVID actually opened up the door a little bit to do this format. Where before, like, it's going to be hard to get all these people from around the world to be a guest on the show. So it was always just me and Mark, which was fine. But it's cool to have another perspective in there as well sometimes. So it kind of opened up the door to do these over a streaming thing. And now we get to have awesome guests like yourself.
So what have you guys learned in these past 48 episodes? I mean, this was a whole new world for you guys, and I find it really intriguing to watch you guys and watch you develop. And you obviously have a passion for it. You put a lot of time into it. And tell the listeners, tell the audience about this journey you guys have been on, because you guys always talk to everybody else, but we don't get a chance to pick your brain. So tell me about it.
Well, for me personally, it's different game when you have a guest. Like you can't just kind of like wing it. Although I know Mark and me prepare very differently. However, I love to have conversations, so mine's more a conversational way, and I've realized how to kind of get that going a bit. And so I think that for me, that was a big part of learning how to have that conversation and keep the conversation going down a track. And then what is even harder for me, or it's harder, is to shift it when it's time to go to a new topic. Because usually, natural conversation is like tapers down and then you're not talking about anything. But keeping it up to this level and then shifting it to make it still at this level, it's a skill. But that's probably the most I've learned this year.
Yeah.
Mark?
Well, for me, it's different. Like every interview we did last year, I was interviewed probably in the thousands of times when I was in the MMA world. So for me, it was really difficult to become the interviewee, like to interview people.
Interviewer, yeah. You're interviewing others. Yeah.
So I was always interviewed. And when I was in the MMA business, I don't care what question they asked me. I would always revert it to my business. I would always revert it to, I didn't care what color's the sky. I don't care. I want to talk about my business. I want you to understand what I'm doing. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. That's what people are starting to understand. If I don't want to, like, for example, when you say, oh, I'm just a regular guy, Laval, I couldn't disagree more. And I'm sorry I can't give you a direct answer, because there's a lot of people we interviewed, and I can remember, like, off the top of my head what you said in April when we interviewed you. I can remember the interview like very vividly, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So if you would have said to me, oh, I'm going to reverse the scenario and I'm going to start interviewing people and like really finding out about your life, which I do, I study immensely.
He really does.
And I think that's important. But I thought, wow, what a great hobby for me, because my entire life people have been asking me questions. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I know about you, Laval, and I know like in depth about you. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't follow, like, it's funny. People go, why don't you follow more people on Twitter, Mark? And I go, I can't, because I follow these 100 people and I want to know about their lives. Why? I don't know. But one day I hope that we can all be in Mexico together you know, and see how we all are in person. You know, that's kind of in my mind what I think about. But the guests we've had on this year, including yourself, like I still remember the time you were talking about climbing up Mount Everest and seeing the dead body. Like I can't express to you when I'm training
You're in the
myself.
tent next to one.
Next to one.
Yeah.
I can't express to you that even when I'm training, you know, and sometimes I'm doing long training sessions and the weather's been brutal here.
Yeah.
I think about that when I'm hiking. So when I'm hiking, I don't know what happened. I think about you directly, and I think about that moment when you were talking about it. And what I'm doing seems like nothing. Like it's weird, but that's kind of how I relate to things. And those are the things. So I've learned so much from every guest, but I can tell you specifically what I've learned from every guest.
That's great. Good answers, guys. And I'm turning this bit around towards you guys. So a couple of questions I've been thinking about when we talked about this podcast is the stuff that you've gleaned from your interviews and the guests that you've had and the laughs and the insights and the emotional moments. Has that changed what you're going to do in 2022? Like if you guys, I guess we'll start with Jesse because you let off before Jesse, but what are you doing differently? What's happening in 2022 with yourself? And I don't mean resolution wise, but are there behaviors or modifications you're about to, what's going on in 2022? It looks like we may be coming out of this pandemic. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope that but I think, you know, for me, discovering that, you know, I run my own business. I have my own videography company. It does very well. I'm very happy with that. But, you know, I get a little frustrated sometimes when I watch Instagram and you know, people just always talk about just do what you love. Just do what you love. And I'm doing that. I'm doing what I love. But it's still work. And understanding that there's still a balance between, you know, working and family, and then also like enjoying and expanding yourself is different things. And I'm very grateful what I do. I'm very happy with what I do. I love it, but I still need those other outlets. And you see behind me now, I have all these fishing rods sitting here. So, you know, I fished for a long time, my whole life, but this last year I really jumped into it more. And now I'm learning. I love exploration of my talents and my gifts and meshing them all together. So, you know, when I see these things like videography and I buy this equipment that I can film underwater with and watch
I've seen that, and I'm so impressed with some of those videos. Like I hit replay a lot on those ones to check them out. Really interesting.
It's and again, it gives me, you know, because, you know, and anyone that knows, you know, from when me and Mark started this, I did photography mostly. That was mostly it. And, you know, part of the joy of that got robbed because I turned it into a business, and I had to, out of necessity. I did.
Yeah.
But I lost some of the joy with that. And so I really want to regain some of those things back that I was really happy and really joyful to do. And then not turn these new things into a business, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's sponsorships that have happened and stuff. That's great. But, you know, there's learning that line and learning that balance, I think, is really big for me this year. And how to do that. I don't know how to do it perfectly, but I know through experience of what I've done differently and screwed it up in the past. So try not to repeat that process.
Yeah. And I guess that's super important. Hey, is failure. Because unless you fail and get some negative feedback, then it doesn't really
even just losing
the process.
Even just losing something, like, and you know you lost it. You know, I know I did. Like the excitement that I used to get going out at night and in the cold shooting the stars or the northern lights was I let it get robbed from me essentially.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen again. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but I think I'm going to be vigilant this year into defending those parts to not let them get carried away.
That's great. Pavlich?
Well, mine is so whack because I don't like I don't want to be known anymore.
I would have to say, from knowing Mark for the last 7, 8 years, Mark's Januaries are very interesting.
Well,
That's intriguing.
I don't want to be known anymore for like the guy that owned the biggest MMA show in the country. I don't want to be known anymore for the guy that has a marketing company. I want to be known, and it's the first time in my life I've never even said it out loud, like to people. I'm saying it today. I want to be known for the maniac that hiked around the world that raised so much money for charity. I want that to be on my graves. Like I don't even want that to be on my gravestone, but I want to be known for that. So I don't want to be known anymore as like, oh, that's the MFC guy, and that's the social media guy, and that's that. No, I truly like I'm actually really good at hiking. So that's weird to say because I have no athletic ability, zero. Okay, like I don't. I look very athletic when I box. I don't know why, and for some reason hiking, I can hike abnormally long distances. I don't know why. And the second when I'm doing it, I feel euphoric, and the second I stop, my body feels broken.
Maybe your ancestors like these tough Croatian shepherds that walked around the mountains all day. Who knows?
You know what? In Laval, all joking aside, we come from an area that's like mountain ranged up in Croatia where it's very small, and basically that was their background. But I thought it was so bizarre, and I actually told someone for the first time last week. I said, I'm actually good at hiking. Like
you think you'll move there one day, Mark?
No.
Really?
I love the cold. I learned that through my Uncle Marty. I love the sun. I love sun tanning, all the rest of the stuff. But there's a majority of my life that has to be in the cold. There's something
I just
about
don't relate to that.
And some people don't. But when it is minus 30 and you do have the right clothes on, and I'm listening
Sure.
to the best, and I'm listening to the best music, and it's at nighttime, and I have my light on my head, and
cool,
I see myself with my light on my head, and I think to myself, I'm 54 years old. There's nowhere in the world I'd rather be, because I could be anywhere I want, but I want to be here hiking with the light on my head. And sometimes I'm by myself, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I don't miss anything.
Laval,
I don't miss anyone.
You got to get Mark up Mount Robson or something.
That's a good tough climb. But I mean, you'll be fit enough now, I'm sure, and I bet you've really evolved, hey, from when you started out this hiking, these long walks. You started with the gear you were wearing and the clothing you were wearing. You're probably overdressing. Everybody overdresses, right?
Yeah,
they
but
think it's minus 30. You got to dress. You don't have to dress much for minus 30 if you're moving.
I'm slim. Like I mean slim in when I wear my gear, I don't want to be bulky. I can't stand being bulky with bulky stuff on. So I'm super fanatical about like really streamlining. I don't want to be like big puffed up stuff on me. I'm not a big fan of it. So I got it down to a science basically between minus 10 and under, minus 20 and under, minus 30 and under, and then minus 40 and under. I just check the temperature. I don't even care about the wind. I know about the wind.
Yeah.
And then I basically, my pack, like I don't wear backpacks. I hate them. So I bought the coolest fanny pack for hiking that you could put. So my
don't say that in the UK. Don't say fanny pack.
Is that a foul ball?
Oh, that's a foul ball, man. That's a foul ball. It's a bum bag.
Okay, bum bag. So I pack it accordingly. And my big thing is not even, it's just the hydration. That's the thing I get lazy on. Yeah. Not in my everyday world. Yeah. Everyday world, I'm hydrated to the max. But when I hike, for some weird reason, because it's cold outside, in my mind, I don't feel like I'm thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make this conscious effort to hydrate. And last year when I did Everest and Edmonton, I did not. Like I hydrated prior, I hydrated kind of during, and at the end, I was literally crippled. You know what I mean? When it was over, because it was just lack of hydration. That won't ever happen again.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch this evolution that you guys have had, and this hiking, walking thing has become a huge part of your life.
Well, I think it should be part of everybody's life, because what I'm noticing is that my brain starts to be very free now, so it's a free brain. My wife comes with me in the mornings to knock off like 10K. And then later on today, I'll go again. And, like sometimes because of work and the rest of the thing, I have to piece it together, right? Like sometimes I can't just blast off 25K or whatever. I just can't, right? Like I have to work. So unfortunately, but it's a different thing. And like I said, I am gear crazy, but I am more of like always checking for the best poles, the best goggles, the best, not an overabundance of gear. I don't want that. That's not
good stuff. Quality stuff.
Correct. I want quality stuff, and I don't want to become like a hoarder of gear. That's not what my hiking mentality is about. My hiking mentality is like the second I got my stuff on, it literally feels like I'm ready to like just destroy.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. And there's some neuroscience behind walking, hey, especially in the mornings. Ambulation, they call it, from the word amble, or that's a root word of the word amble. And what it is that you're moving outdoors with natural light, and your peripheral vision's being triggered all the time by, let's say, a jogger or a vehicle or a dog going by or a magpie landing. And you don't get that in a house if you think about it. In a house, we're always looking straight ahead, usually at a computer screen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or at the Oilers losing on TV.
Yeah.
So it's important to get outside and walk.
Now, Laval, we've been watching you over the course of the year as well, and we've noticed that you've been on the bike a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with that?
I don't know. I think I've, when you were talking about how you kind of lost your passion for the photography and the videography, and now you're getting it back, especially in the videography part. I'd always liked biking. I'd always done a lot of biking, and because of the lack of travel during the pandemic, which we're still in, hopefully we can see the end of it now, I just really got into cycling. And we also met some friends who both part of the couple, the husband and the wife, ride. My wife got into riding. And I mean, that's the way I get to work. So it's kind of like when Mark is walking, I know exactly what to wear, depending on, I check the weather before I leave. And it's just become a huge part of my life. And it's, I think it's the motion is medicine to me. It's the best medicine to get outside and move. And so even if I'm just commuting to work, that's a 30K round trip on my bike. At least in my commute, I've got something done. And I've got a passion for it. It's kind of like when you're tinkering around, tying your own flies. Yeah. Maybe if you've made your own fly fishing rod. I build my own bikes. I buy the frames and I build them, and it's a fun combination of exercise and tinkering and tech and gear and getting outdoors and covering big distances. So it's just something I've fallen into. Yeah.
Now, speaking of big distances, are you planning a trip of some magnitude?
Yeah, I was trying to leave in February on a trip, but COVID, or Omicron in more specifically, has sort of derailed it, because right now it would be, I think, folly to try and plan a trip with the risk of having to arrive at a destination and sit for 10 or 14 days in isolation, and then on the return as well. It's pretty hard to budget that time. So we're looking at other options, but I think by this time next year I'll be off on a pretty unusual trip. I'll have to tell you guys about it as soon as it's all nailed down. But it's a big job. I mean, Mark, especially in your business as sort of a marketing guy, well, not sort of a marketing guy, as a marketing guy, it takes as much work trying to find sponsors as it does physically training for these trips.
It's shameful, because I see companies all the time sponsoring things, and I think, well, that's just a waste of money. And then I see someone like yourself that does what you do, and it's something like that moves people. That's what people don't understand. You whether you set out in life to go, I'm going to move people, that's not what it is. I don't brag at all about what I do, but I do brag about what you do, Laval. And so I love saying to people will stop me in the West Edmonton Mall and they go, oh, I saw your podcast. Oh, that's great. And they go, oh, I saw the one with Laval St Germain. I never even knew that guy, I was like, really? And I go, yeah, that's something that you have to pay attention to in life, because anybody, not even the Everest, okay, not even the rowing. The rowing to me was crazier than Everest. Okay. That's way crazier. Like, Everest is crazy without oxygen. Rowing that was bananas. Now, I know, like, my problem is that I have a constant thing in my head that thinks you, as Laval St Germain, won't stop until you kill yourself. And and that, I know it sounds crazy, and I'm sure no one's ever said that on a show, but what happens is when you climb Everest with no oxygen, that's pushing it super far. Okay. When you're on a boat by yourself, rowboat by yourself for 45, 50 days, that's pushing it, man. That's like pushing it. So if you go one more step, Laval,
what is the next step?
Hey, doesn't sound so crazy what I just said. Hey, Jesse, it doesn't sound that nuts now, right? Because I'm not saying you're trying to kill yourself, but I'm saying is there is a,
Are you saying like how far can you push yourself?
Yeah,
is that what you're trying to discover?
You could have killed yourself in the boat. You could have killed yourself.
I think so, and I think in some respects we all do that, though, right? And I guess the only thing I get this I have this conversation a lot with people, and the only thing I would say is that if you had a friend that was physically not looking after themselves to the point where you guys are talking, so and so is drinking too much, smoking too much,
Yep.
eating the wrong foods, never getting any exercise, nobody would have that conversation with them, really. I doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess with mine, it would be a little more sudden, probably. But at the same time, where, I mean, it's, when you do these things, it is, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how resilient people are. And I like to just reinforce this fact that there's nothing and Mark, you touched on it earlier, but I really don't think that there's anything. I don't have any secret sauce. I don't think I've got anything that anybody else doesn't have. Like, just for your listeners, because you're an Edmonton-based podcast, I'm from a farming community just north of St. Albert, small town, no alpine background, very simple upbringing. My mom was from a farm near Cardiff, and I think my horizons were opened by reading. We've talked about this before, and about imagination. And I think if you've got the imagination, you can do these things. And instead of, people talk about this in New Year's resolutions. Instead of setting a goal, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. The way I've done it is I've tried to emulate the people that have accomplished this stuff. So I looked at certain heroes of mine growing up and certain mentors, and I really loved the process and how they live their lives. And I think if you first of all try and mirror what they're doing, you will accomplish that goal, whether it's 40 pounds or whether it's rowing across an ocean, or, hopefully if physiologically, if it works out, you can, climb big mountains. But I just think I want people to know that, like, I'm a year younger than you are, Mark, and Jesse's still a baby. He's probably sitting in a booster seat right now. But 53 years old, you're 54, and I don't kind of let people tell me I'm getting older. I train probably harder than I ever have, and you just can't give up. Like,
right.
You just can't give up. You can't say, okay, I'm 40, I'm not doing this anymore. I've heard 40-year-old people tell me they're too old for something. I'm laughing. I'm going, I was 42 and I stepped on top of Everest.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the deal now. And again, it's something that we always said when we were young, like, oh, that's just old people talk, trying to make yourself feel younger. But really, now, I'm 41. So, when I turn 40, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm 25 still. Like, really, like, I do feel that way.
Yeah.
So would you say then that it is, 99% in your head?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't you can't let yourself be sort of talked to. Well, put it this way: people are going to try and talk you out of this stuff all the time. That whether they are subconsciously doing it or intentionally doing it or consciously doing it, people like to tell people that they can't accomplish certain things. They like to say you're crazy. They'd like to say that's too hard. You're never going to do that. But what I found is when I set off on a tough trip, like one of my hard trips to hard places, is that all it takes is really pulling the trigger, putting one foot in front of the, obviously preparation's key. I mean, it's huge. But at the same time, once you get that momentum, that mission momentum going, things start to happen. And pretty soon, you're that boy from Warrenville, Alberta, who's climbed Everest without oxygen, or you rode solo across the North Atlantic Ocean, or you've ridden from the Arctic Ocean to the Dawson in winter. It's not that big. Like, taking that first step, it's cliche, but it's difficult. But once you get that rolling, you get that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself now? Because it seems like there's someone at home thinking, like, what would you tell yourself, when you were 18 years old now? Like when you were 18 years old, what would you tell yourself? Because it seems like everybody watching at home is going, oh yeah, this guy, he's done it all. He's done it all. But there's got to be something that you would have told yourself now. What would you have said to yourself?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, there's a lot of things, but if I could look back when I was 18 and talk to my 18-year-old self, probably the biggest thing, guys, and this has nothing to do with doing these physical feats or these tough trips. It would be, we lost our son Richard when he was 21, and I would say to myself, when you have kids, don't sweat the small stuff. And I really sweated the small stuff with Richard, where I should have just sort of eased up on the reins and let that wild, crazy, wonderful kid just be who he is. And it caused a lot of problems between us. I was the hard driving dad, and looking back on that, it was repairing and almost repaired towards the end, thank God. And the last time I spoke to him, we told each other we loved each other. We were just having a regular phone call. But those are the things that you've got to really watch, especially as parents, is that, or with any relationship, whether it's a wife, a spouse or a child, is I have to sweat the small stuff, the details in my job as an airline pilot, or if I'm getting in a rowboat, or if I'm doing a trip, or I'm picking the right gear. But you don't have to do with people. Let them just love them and let them live their life. And so that's one thing I would tell my 18-year-old self for sure is don't try and make somebody else the way I am, because I am a certain way because of certain things that have happened in my life. So.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks for.
I'm writing that down. I'm writing that down too, though.
It's great because I can totally relate to that, because that's something that you always say, when you're a kid, I'm never gonna be like you when I grow up.
Yeah.
And you end up one day saying the same thing that your
100%.
parents are saying, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But I think that too, like that, it's almost like relax. Like, hey, relax. Like, this thing here isn't going to be the destruction of this person. Like,
exactly. Be harder on yourself than you are on others.
Yeah.
Right. So in my leadership role as an airline captain, I have to mentor the crew. I have to set the tone at the beginning of the trip. I have to be knowledgeable. I have to be tough on myself, but they don't need to see that, right? And right. I don't have to hold them to the same standards that I hold myself. And I think that's important in a leadership role, be it as a mom or a dad or as a business person, or in my case in the airline environment. And I think that's really important that I show up to the crew room. I've got my first officer there, which is aviation jargon for my co-pilot. I've got all my flight attendants sitting there, and I walk in, and it doesn't matter what my day was like, or how hard my bike ride in was, or what parts of my face I froze on the ride in, or whether Jan and I had a fight the night before, or whatever it was, all the normal stuff. You don't bring that in there, right? You set the tone, a tone of confidence, a tone of lightheartedness, but at the same time being professional, and they don't have to measure up to the way you hold the standard you hold yourself to, right?
I think that's a great lesson for all leaders, especially young aspiring leaders, because remember when the Steve Jobs book came out and everyone wanted to be a jerk? Like, Steve Jobs was a jerk. Like, he was a jerk when he did it, but it worked, like, for him. Yeah. But everyone wanted to be that way for a little while. And then they realized... And
don't you find that's interesting, Jesse, that nowadays our heroes in our current society right now, the sort of the messiahs in our society are the tech giants, the billionaires. Yeah. And I just don't know if that's, I just don't get it. I don't think that's what you want to aim for.
Well,
I agree, Laval. I think that is an ongoing problem, and as you see, every person I bump into and everywhere I go, they're an influencer. That they don't want to do anything else in their life. They want to, and then what happens is the person will ask me, the kid will ask me at the movie theater, well, Mark, how many Twitter followers do you have, or how many Instagram followers do you have? And I said, I don't even have to check, and I have more than you, which means I'm not an influencer, so you can't be an influencer. And I'm saying to people, go to school. I know it sounds cliche-ish, but I tell everybody, man, I want you to go to school, and I want you to go to school now because they have schools for people like me, like Jesse, like you, that not like the schools we all went to. They have schools now where, hey, I want to learn about 3D animation. I want to learn about how to move this thing this way and that way. Oh my God. I sent my daughter, and I'm going to plug this school, VCAD in Vancouver. I sent my daughter to that school. When I did the tour, I looked at my wife and I said, honey, do you mind missing me for about 2 years so I can go to this school? Like it was incredible. These kids were doing 3D animation on the wall, and they were like, hey, Mr. Pavlich, come here, check this out. And I'm like, wow, like I was like, you guys, this is your college, this is your university. Never existed when I was a kid. I would have went. And that's what we need more of for people to
I
evolve
think
that
people
way.
get stuck on now looking at the lifestyle and wanting to emulate that.
Yeah.
And forgetting about the work.
Oh yeah,
Because-
the work and this feeling that technology is going to save everything, and I just don't think we can. I mean, what do I know? But I just don't think that's the way to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really interesting that way. I agree. Like I think too. Like I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast with a guy I like, Jordan B. Peterson, who's a great thinker to me, but they were talking about the very thing of that, and he's like, hey, like where are the role models? The role models, 1,000 years ago. Think about those guys.
Yeah.
Think what they did. They were, and again, you
say what canceled
you want.
now.
Yeah, say what you want about. Yeah, they're canceled now. Is it because they were off fighting a war somewhere, shoving a sword through a guy?
That's so true.
and you're like, that was the heroes back then, and now it's how much money can you make? And again,
so Laval, if you would have dinner with any three people in the world, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Well, you set it up. It's a sub pitch.
Yeah. I would. There's a bunch of them. I would love to sit down with Obama. I think it'd be really interesting. I'd just love to hear, just the stories of the behind the scenes stories. I think that'd be really interesting. I really like the idea of sitting down with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea.
Wow.
And just seeing
you went from this side to that side.
Yeah. Just seeing what makes this guy tick.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'd love to. My mom's dad, my grandfather, the farmer from south of Edmonton, he died when he was 93. I'd love to sit with him and see what he thinks of the world today. He died about. Oh man, he's died about 20 years ago now. Yeah. And I'd love just to see, because he always had a great outlook and, grade 8 education, German farmer, but I'd love to just sit down with him with one of those sort of chip coffee mugs that you get on a farm and just, and just have a conversation. Hey, on the leadership thing, guys, I've been thinking about this since you guys invited me back. And I'm not trying to be funny, but what do you think the fix is to the Oilers? What's going on there?
Well, we actually talk about this a lot. Because,
it's always been culture. We've been shouting it since the day I moved to Edmonton 25 years ago. It's a cultural thing. They have all the talent in the world. I don't care who you have in net. I don't care who your defensemen are. I don't give a shit. I can't stand living in a city. I love the city with all my heart, but when they keep making excuses about changing the coach and changing the defenseman and having a 42-year-old goalie, which I see on a regular basis because next door to me, these kids are like hockey prodigies. They have an ice rink in the back. His kid plays with those kids. So Mike Smith's over here all the time. Now, there's a guy too that he could be old, he could be whatever, but with the talent that they have to score goals, there's no excuse in the world. So it's a cultural thing. I say, everybody go get drunk together. Go play 5-pin bowling together. I say everybody go on a hike together. I say everybody. Not Connor McDavid goes over here. Draisaitl doesn't want to go. No. Everybody together. Okay.
Yeah, it's a collective mentality. That's
and I
because
think
there's something in that dressing room that's not right.
I think you kind of led into it with the leadership thing. Connor McDavid is not Sidney Crosby.
No.
Crosby is a leader. And we've seen that throughout his career. We've seen Ovechkin be that leader. We've seen Jonathan Toews. And Messier was that leader. Like Gretzky was that leader. And I think this is part of the problem with sports now, especially hockey. You get so good at a young age, and they're so good at picking you out at a young age that you are the focus of everything your whole life. And you don't really get to be put in those positions of adversity because you're always on the best team. You're scoring 14 points a game. You're dominating everyone else, and you don't really get to discover what makes you tick off the ice.
What a great way to look at it.
And I think that's a big problem with McDavid. I thought he was going to do it this year where he started talking a little bit more on the bench, but I just don't see it now. I think when he faces the adversity,
there's the word.
Turns in a bit. He turns a little inward.
And again, where's he
I don't mind people
Jesse?
evaluating themselves, but when you shut down, That's the opposite of what happens. I'm a huge Flames fan. So the cup run in 03 when Iginla took the team on his back, to a team that shouldn't have been in the playoffs, and they managed to make 6, and they went all the way to the game 7. Iginla was the perfect leader. He put that team on his back. He did every single interview with a smile on. Even after a bad loss, he went out there with a smile and said,
took responsibility.
Yeah, he took responsibility, but he also said, we're a team. We're always a team. We're always going to do this as a team. And that team, to me, I felt the gel of it. Like, from top to bottom, you knew who everyone was, and you knew that they all wanted to be the leader. Like, it was different, and you can see that's different with the Oilers today. Like, you probably haven't seen it since Messier left. Really,
but you've seen
maybe the year that the Oilers went, the year after the Flames.
But what about the time you see Draisaitl in press conferences after? Does he sound like a leader when he's in the press conference? No, he's sitting there making like they're slapping his hand, like, well, you guys lost again. And he's like, well, we lost again. He's not giving any insight of like, what's the solution? How are we going to do things different? Like Iginla did back then, like Messier's done over the years, like all these other players have done. These two guys could be the best players in the NHL. And you know what's great? When this is all over in 9 years, they'll have the best highlight tape in the world to show their kids, because they won't have a Stanley Cup to show them, a Stanley Cup ring to show them. I guarantee you, if they keep going down this road.
Yeah.
What's something that you touched on, guys, and I've seen it lately during the pandemic, is just because you're the most qualified doesn't make you the best communicator or the best leader, right? 100%. I mean, you can look at some of the chief medical officers of health across Canada, and it's the communication skills which sort of dictate how we as citizens either respect the rules or don't respect the rules. So it's all about,
and you're right. It's caused the most turmoil is when that communication is broken down,
or it's just not charismatic, or it's just not. It's just plain shitty communication.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because you're the most qualified, meaning that maybe the best player on the ice, does not necessarily mean you're going to be the best leader at all.
I think when they brought in Duncan Keith, they thought that he would be that guy. And he isn't. He just isn't. You got to remember, Duncan Keith was on the Blackhawks, where they had 8 other leaders with him.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
That could do that job. And so maybe Duncan just didn't feel like he can do that yet. Or hopefully, someone's going to have to, though. At the end of the day, someone has to.
Mark, you said something. You said they got to get out and play whatever. He said,
I don't care what it is.
Yeah, but that brings back a story. Now I'm into cycling, as you guys touched on, and World Cup cycling, or not World Cup cycling, but the best riders in the world. So these are the World Tour riders. There is a Danish team. It's called CSC. So they're made up of riders from all over Europe, and the coach hired some Danish special forces soldiers to take these guys out in the bush in the wintertime, and they had to survive for a week in the bush and in Scandinavia. So it's cold. It'd be like Alberta, the weather. And when you hear these riders now talk about that experience, it forced them to, first of all, gel, and it forced them to all pitch in to help, to get the fire started, get the tents up, keep an eye on the fire all night, keep it stoked. And there's one story, one of the best riders ever, a guy named Jens Voigt, an East German rider, was with a Swiss rider sitting by the fire one night, and they were freezing. It's probably minus 20 or something, and they were freezing sitting by this fire. And the Swiss rider reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny little piece of chocolate that he had left over, and their food was rationed. And he broke it in half and gave it to Jens Voigt. And Jens Voigt to this day says that, and he's retired now. He said that he didn't have to show me that he had that chocolate.
Right.
And he certainly didn't have to share it with me. He could have just turned around and eaten it. I never would have known. And he said from then on, when he was, this guy's name was Cancellara, the Swiss rider that gave him the chocolate, from then on in every race, Jens Voigt would bury himself for Cancellara because of that little act of nothingness in the middle of the bush. Wow. And these little,
but it's not. Laval, it's not nothingness. It's not nothingness.
I know, but when you relate the story, it's a piece of chocolate. It's not like he gave him his back wheel or gave.
It's so profound, though. But what a profound moment in time. You say
yes, profound is right, and it set the tone, and so the team needs something like that. I remember years ago when I was a kid, my dad would tell me about the coach of the Hamilton Ticats at that time. I don't know what his name was, but he was this really revolutionary CFL coach who would take the guys out and make them run in the mountains. And no CFL team does that.
Yeah.
And
No.
rely on each other, help each other up these steep pitches, and Lori and that the Ticats back then were a real force. Right. And it's just interesting how this leadership thing and this team psychology thing.
I do remember teams going off and doing team building exercises. I remember that, and you don't really see that anymore today at all.
I did it myself at a previous airline I was at. I was a pilot. I was the chief pilot of training for the whole airline. So, for this jet we had at this airline. It was called an F-28, and we had two different departments. We had the propeller, the turboprop guys who flew like Dash 8s, kind of like what Encore or Jazz flies, and then the jet boys. And there is this friction between the two. So what I did is I organized a paintball day out in the foothills west of Calgary, and I forced the check captains from the propeller division to mix with the jet boys and become teammates. And it was amazing what it did to sort of the camaraderie and the level of training that we got out of these guys later, and the cooperation that it caused. So these things work.
They do. Laval, I honestly think that we might have to give your card to the Oilers, and you might have to take them paintballing, because this is. Yeah, like I trained many guys that fought in the UFC, okay, and guys that probably should have never been in the UFC. And when I trained them, I kind of had a philosophy at one point, because as their trainer and manager, it was always very serious. But I would always get massively drunk with each guy at once a year, and I'm talking biblically drunk, okay? And
some ancient Croatian technique again here, Jesse.
And it worked every time, though, because as the person was in training camp with me all these times in the course of a year, and I was very serious, the one time a year where I'd get drunk with them, it was so in depth of like the things that came out of everybody's mouths that when it was over, but I didn't hold it against anybody. But I got a lot of very, very valuable information during that drunkenness to continue on, and to maybe switch a few things I was doing to take them up another level or another 2 levels. But those are the things that I saw. And I'm not saying you have to get drunk with people, but I like to get drunk when my daughter brings her boyfriend home, or my son used to bring a girlfriend home. my wife would give them a little extra wine at dinner, because she'd want to know who they really were. You know what I mean? So, So there's a little philosophy in that, but it works. It really does.
What do we call that? In vino veritas? the truth through wine, or beer, I guess, Jesse?
Beer, wine, yeah.
It's actually funny, because in the native culture too, they will push themselves to the limit to, see a vision or get some inspiration or some sort of direction.
Yep.
And they'll put themselves in situations where they're freezing, they're starving, on the cliff edge, so to speak. And I think that, and again, Laval, you're here, you've been on that cliff edge, literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
And what you discover about yourself is, I don't think we live in a society anymore that allows people to do it. It's almost like we defend ourselves from that now.
Correct.
We don't allow ourselves to ever experience any sort of adversity, so you can never really know what's going on inside of you fully. And I find that, I've read some books about that as well, and talking about like living 10,000 years ago, where you're fighting against other animals to survive, and every day you woke up, you had to survive. That was it. We don't wake up every day with that anymore. We wake up every day comfortable. And so, I look at some of these teams now in sports specifically, and you look at like the wars that they used to have in the 80s in hockey, and the wars they'd have on football fields and that kind of stuff, because they allowed themselves to feel that edge.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it.
Adversity is huge. Adversity is huge. I'll tell you right now, if you walked up to a nice stream in the mountains, Jesse, and first cast caught the biggest trout you've ever had in your life, I don't think it'll be that good of a story, and I don't think it'll be that valuable. But if you took a week doing it, and you had to really struggle, that would be the most valuable fish ever.
I honestly, and I fished with some guys, and some were newer fishermen, and they get really frustrated when they got skunked, and they're like, I'm like, dude, fishing for 30 years, I've been skunked more times than I could count.
Yeah.
But that isn't what this is about. This is, I know now what not to do. And also too, like, you don't know, like, I can't control what that fish is. That fish might have gorged itself on something earlier that day. I don't know what it had. And so there's different situations and circumstances that you have to put yourself in. You're like, okay, I did what I know how to do, and it didn't cut it. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to come out tomorrow and try the same thing, or evolve this into something else now. And I get really frustrated. I think that's part of my hiccup with social media and stuff too, because you get told the opposite on there now. You get told like you should never feel any sort of adversity. You should never feel any sort of pain or anything.
Discomfort.
And really when you even go to like our medical system, that's it. Like, hey, pain, we can make pain stop and you don't have to feel any. And really that's, pain is a gift. Pain is a gift. Like it lets you know that something isn't right. And something has to be changed or shifted or evolved.
It's informative. Pain is informative.
It teaches you so much.
You can go do the research, guys. Between the ages of 18 to 28, there's so many kids now on so many different prescribed medications for mental illness. Listen, I've had this I've had this discussion. We had Michael Landsberg on the show. He said, and I love Michael Landsberg, love him to death. And he says, sick, not weak. Yeah. And I said, yes, but you're weak if you let it consume you. If you don't find a way to fix it. That's the part I said. And everybody said, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. And I said, no, let me repeat this. Sick, not weak, but you're weak if you don't try to find every way possible to fix yourself. And medication, and I've told that to him and he's medicated. Medication, I am not a fan of. Economy of motion. You've said it on this show, Laval. Move your body. Move. Just keep moving. Create. Move. You'll be surprised that maybe medication shouldn't be your first choice. I have relatives that are all medicated. I have people in my family, and it's just like I said. I am not. And I tell people, and I'm not bragging because I'm not, but it just seems like that's the first thing the kid walks in and they're like, hey, you need to start taking this and you need to start taking this. And you're 18, 19 years old and your brain hasn't developed yet. But go check the statistics in Canada. It is astronomical what the kids are taking right now between the ages of 18 to 26. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are certain pharmaceuticals that are critical to keep people alive or sane. But at the same time, I know what you're saying is that you've got to also try and fix it yourself in some way, whether that's therapy or movement or getting outdoors or talking to the right people. For sure, I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm not saying that.
No.
Yeah, all medication is bad. I'm saying is let's try some things, especially when you're younger. Let's try some certain things prior.
Yeah, I think that too. Like, now you're saying, and again, what you're saying is that some places, some doctors even, the first thing they'll do without anything else is throw a pill at you. Mm-hmm. And, and I have friends that have had that too. I had a friend that, got this one medication for an upper and then a week later got one for a downer. And they're like, oh, just try them and see which one works. And you're like, okay. And I don't really think that's how it should work either.
No.
But yeah, no, it's... But again, it's that thing, and I remember, I think it was in the late 90s or something when they decided that pain was another thing that senses, like another one of our senses.
One of the vital signs. They call it one of the vital signs.
Vital signs, yeah.
That's right. Yep. Pain was one of them, and they're like, hey, we can fix pain. And that's when, even education for training doctors and stuff started to shift, where, hey, now you can fix that one. So, and you go and then you take that down the road and, there's a lot of other things involved in there, but, you see that and you see that permeating through culture where anytime someone feels any sort of pain whatsoever, it's run away from.
Purdue Pharma. It's the whole story of Purdue Pharma.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, being artistic, like I always say to people, hey, like you can't create anything cool unless you're suffering.
That's probably true.
Sometimes out of the, and again, it sucks that way, but sometimes the best stuff you create is through that adversity.
Yeah.
And it is, I think some of the best stuff I've ever done is through that adversity. And it is one of those things. And I think you could relate very much to that. I mean, obviously climbing Everest, rowing across the Atlantic, cycling wherever you're going to cycle next. Do you have a hint? Is it international?
Oh yeah, it's not here.
excited about
Not
this.
here. So guys, here's a question on. I've kind of turned the show around. I love it. I'm sitting here interviewing you guys. Let the listeners who've never seen you guys or heard you guys, tell them about Everest and Edmonton on February 26th. Tell us the story.
It's a hike consists of 44.5 kilometers, the same distance of the base to the peak of Everest. There's valleys. The weather's usually horrible. It's usually colder in Edmonton than it is at Everest during that time. Very bizarre weather, like flipping around, like from -10 to -26 to -30. Usually that's the range that goes on during the hike during that time of year. This year is for myeloma cancer. We chose that because most people didn't know what it was until we actually started talking about it. And then all of a sudden, myeloma Canada was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Everybody's starting to know about it, right? And it's like, yeah, we're going to raise a ton of money, but awareness is what I have a gift for letting people know about. And like I said, we're going to allow people in it for the first time this year. But like I said, people call and go, hey, can we get a relay team together? And I'm like, no. Can we I'm like absolutely not. This isn't some like marathon thing. This isn't a like a participation.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. And if you make it, fantastic. And if you don't, no judgment. But at least I want you to put your nutsack out there and try to make this hike and journey. And my wife says, well, Mark, you can raise more money. And I said, no, I don't care. This is something I want to do this way. If we have 5 people in it this year, great. If we have 10 in it, great. But it's 44.5 kilometers by yourself.
It's actually interesting that we just talked about that and you said no. It's like people want to avoid the full deal of it.
Yes. And we've had literally 50 people want to do it in groups, And I said, that's fantastic, but not for Everest and Edmonton. So when you do finish and you're looking at our face and we're sitting there drinking Dom Perignon at the end at the Fairmont Hotel McDonald's, you'll understand that you achieved something great today and you raised money for charity. But it's not like, what I love about the Navy SEALs? There's never been a female that's been a Navy SEAL. You know why? Not because women are inferior or not ready, because very few have been able to finish. Even the most athletic female has tried to finish it. So they told the Navy SEALs, we need you guys to curtail your what's involved here. You know what Navy SEAL said? That'll be the day. It'll never happen. So the first day, there will be a female Navy SEAL. There will be. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait. And I'm gonna brag about that girl, and I'm gonna raise her hand in the air. I'm gonna get her on this show. But Navy SEAL said, nah, we're not gonna change our criteria for you. No matter white, black, Chinese, female, doesn't matter. This is what it is for everybody.
So where does it start, you guys? What's the starting point? What's the story?
The starting point is in the River Valley below in Edmonton, and it goes through Horlack Park. It goes, over about four or 5 different bridges back and forth, and it nothing overlaps. So that's the hard part in Edmonton, not to have something overlap in 44.5 kilometers. The final escalation is up to the Fairmont Hotel McDonald, and go right through the front door. That's the wrap. 44.5 kilometers. And like I said, we've had a lot of cold weather now. I have a strange suspicion it will return during that time. Yeah. So like I said, people ask me all the time, and I'm like, what's funny? I have a totally different mentality. It's when I hike at nighttime. My wife used to joke all the time because we have coyotes in our neighborhood, right? A lot. And my wife used to always send me pictures of coyotes when I was hiking at nighttime, and I'd be like, maybe I should get home, And now, but it's different now. When I hike at nighttime with my light on, and I have a knife about this big on my side, I say to myself, and all you animal lovers out there, you can get all upset later. But I said, you know what? What's funny? My wife sends me the picture now, and I go, honey, you better tell them to watch out. Because if they come near me this time when I'm hiking, right? Because I've had some come very close to me, and I tell them nicely, please back away, because I have the ability to send you, So what I'm trying to tell you, I don't want to hurt animals, but what I'm trying to tell you, I don't bother nobody. That doesn't bother me. So when I hike at nighttime, I don't care.
So if you're wearing a coyote fur coat on February 26th, we knew where you got it then, eh?
I will not be wearing it. Don't get me in trouble. Laval, you're going to get me in trouble now.
I would wear one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No fake stuff for Jesse.
No.
No fake stuff. No
Well, that's great. What a good cause, and what a unique way to see the river valley.
And I think also too, we're going to expand this year, and we're already in talks with Iceland. So we're in talks with Iceland to take Everest in Edmonton to Everest in Iceland, and to do it there as well. We're trying to figure out the worst time of the year to do it, because most people don't know there's not a ton of snow in.
Yeah, it's not that cold. It's got a cold name, but it's not that cold.
No, it's not. But the hiking is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And so we will probably end up there even in 2022. And I told them, I said, listen, one thing I need from your government is about 10 flights and 10 hotel rooms, because I want to bring my crew with me. So
yeah, I'm going to be documenting that one.
Yeah. So it's like, I want to bring my friends with me. And that's always been my goal in life. I don't care what it is. If it's not fun, I don't do it. I just don't.
Start researching the Icelandic fishing there, Jesse.
Yeah, I already have.
I mean, it's crazy.
Salmon.
Crazy. They say you can't miss in Iceland when you go fishing. It's crazy, man. Like, you can't miss.
I've only been there once, but I was only there a couple of days. We weren't doing anything adventurous, but it's a unique place. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
good beer there too, Jesse. Great beer.
Yeah, I'd love to go there.
And guys, and in Reykjavik, the capital, there is the Penis Museum.
Yes, I've actually seen a show about that.
You don't want to miss that.
Yeah. Only in Iceland, eh?
Well, on that note, Laval, thank you once again for joining us in part 2, and hey, we look forward to part 3. And
definitely.
Everybody out there, follow Laval on social media. Make sure that when he announces his trip, that we have to get this one well known, because
and we'll work hard to acquire sponsorship for Laval's next venture.
Who do you want as a sponsor?
Yeah, who do you want? Who do you like? What companies?
I don't know. I mean,
who's the best one that you
Crystal Glass Canada. How's that?
That's a great answer. That's a great answer.
I'm smarter than I look.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Well, hey guys, that was great. Really enjoyed being on. Thanks for having me back, and let's stay in touch. Maybe we'll see you February 26th. I'll have to really hustle to keep up with you.
Oh no, I don't think so. But
okay, see you, boys.
Thanks so much. We'll see you later.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Take care.
Laval St Germain.
The great Laval St Germain.
Yes, absolutely.
And today will be official. Today is official. Okay. What is it? Today's January. I don't want to make any mistakes on it. January 17th is officially, on the Me and Jesse podcast moving forward, Laval St Germain Day.
Oh.
Okay. So this day forward, January, I got to make sure I don't want to make any mistake. January 17th, Laval St Germain Day. Boom. Today.
All right.
That's how it's going to be. That's how it's return guests.
Well, it's we'll see what happens in football tonight. It's going to be an interesting time. Super Bowl February 13th.
Yeah. Who's your team? Who's winning the Super Bowl, Jesse? Tell the people at home who's winning. You got to pick one team.
I don't know yet, man. I don't know yet.
No. Come on.
I said the Packers last week.
I would love to see them. I agree with you.
I wouldn't. I'd hate it, but I think they would. I think they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Packers could.
Because they'll have an easy road in San Francisco. So who they play after that, we don't know yet, right? So, but against San Fran, I don't see San Fran doing well at all. I think literally Garoppolo will freeze to death in Green Bay next week. So,
well, thanks Crystal Glass for sponsoring us. Crystal Glass, call 310 Glass for all your glass needs, residential or commercial.
The best and the best of the best. The best of the best.
crystalglass.ca.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I mean, we got a few more shows before Everest and Edmonton actually takes place, but make sure you follow that on all social media, Everest and Edmonton. And that's February 26th, right?
February 26th, everestandedmonton.com.
Yes. And until next time.
Yes. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Laval, once again for joining us. Always a great guest and very exciting. Very exciting what his next thing's going to be.
I can't
It's going to be epic. We know that.
Well, the scary part, it's going to be so epic. I pray for him every night that he doesn't epically go off a cliff somewhere because he goes so crazy with the stuff he does. So,
well, until next time, everybody, that's Mark Pavlich. I'm Jesse Marno. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good night.